See, these are books that we should be reading again, that reestablish the confidence and of the fundamentalism that is contained in the first free people of modern times. And those are things to be revived and perpetuated. Now, he says there's a new kind of Christianity developing in America. Isn't that interesting? He said that in America, freedom and religion were combined. They were unified. They had to kind of go together. He said in France, where we have a national religion, everywhere that religion is strong, freedom is suppressed. But it's just the opposite in America. And he says there isn't any pressure. There are many, many churches, but no pressure from the churches to take a political position. He said the sects, meaning different denominations that exist in the United States, are innumerable. They all differ in respect to the worship which is due to the Creator, but they agree in respect to the duties which are due from man to man. Each sect adores the deity in its own peculiar manner, but all sects preach the same moral law in the name of God. All the sects of the United States are comprised within the great unity of Christianity, and Christian morality is everywhere the same. There is no country in the world where the Christian religion retains a greater influence over the souls of men than in America. It was astonishing to de Tocqueville that liberty and religion could be combined in such a balanced structure of harmony and good order. He wrote, "The revolutionists of America are obliged to profess an ostensible respect for Christian morality and equity, which does not permit them to violate wantonly the laws that oppose their designs. Thus, while the law permits the American to do what they please, religion prevents them from conceiving and forbids them to commit what is rash or unjust." And that's what Cecil B. DeMille meant when he said, there is only liberty under law. You cannot have liberty without law. Then he described the role of religion in the schools. He says, in New England, every citizen receives the elementary notions of human knowledge. He is taught, moreover, the doctrines and the evidence of his religion, the history of his country, and the leading features of the Constitution. In the states of Connecticut and Massachusetts, it is extremely rare to find a man imperfectly acquainted with all these things, and a person wholly ignorant of them is sort of a phenomenon. Then he says, he was amazed how much was coming across the pulpits of America that stabilized the culture, the political establishment of the people. He said, this led me to examine more attentively than I had hitherto done the station which the American clergy occupy in political society. I learned with surprise that they fill no public appointments. I did not see one of them in the administration, and they are not even represented in the legislative assemblies. You see, that was quite different. In England and France, you had the traditional national churches occupying some of the highest offices in the land to protect their own interests and impose certain ideals that were theirs on the people. How different this is from Europe, he says. He said the unbelievers in Europe attack the Christians as their political opponents rather than as their religious adversaries. They hate the Christian religion as the opinion of a political party, much more than as an error in belief. And they reject the clergy, less because they are the representatives of the deity than because they are the allies of government, which of course was unpopular. Now in America, he said, the clergy remain politically separated from the government, but nevertheless provide a moral stability among the people which permits the government to prosper. In other words, there is separation of church and state, but not separation of church and religion. Isn't that interesting? And see, that's the difference. Then he goes on to say, down toward the bottom, I sought for the greatness and genius of America in her commodious harbors and her ample rivers. And it was not there in her fertile fields and boundless prairies. It was not there. In her rich mines and in her vast world commerce, and it was not there. Not until I went to the churches of America and heard her pulpits aflame with righteousness did I understand the secret of her genius and power. America is great because she is good, and if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. And we ought to have that engraven over the schools where drugs are rampant and prophylactics are sometimes distributed for a violation of the most basic morality that mankind has ever known. Now the founders began a campaign to equalize all of the religions in America, and that was not easy. In fact, it was very difficult. Some of the founders themselves were a little confused, like Orwell's book, in which it said in 1984 there would be universal equality, only some would be more equal than others. And that's the way we tend to do. Now, Patrick Henry in Virginia, thinking that he could stabilize religion by having a tax appropriated so that each person could designate where the tax would go to provide a minister and a school in the Christian community. And he thought that would be just great, because some of the churches, well, there just weren't enough good schools and there weren't enough churches being supported and sustained, and he thought that would guarantee their stabilization. Immediately Madison jumped on him and said, "Don't do that." He says, "Who does not see that the same authority which can establish Christianity in exclusion to all other religions may establish with the same ease any particular sect of Christians in exclusion to all the other sects? The bill violates the equality which ought to be the basis of every law." Isn't that great wisdom? See, in their anxiety to do good, they almost invoked a very serious evil. Now, to give you some idea of the founders' problem,